All right. What's going on, you guys? How's it going? Welcome to the next build guide video of the league. This is my Pure Fizz uh, Melee Impale Summoner. And basically, the premise behind it is utilizing Impale support as well as the Rotten Claws notables on our Cluster Jewels. So, all of my minions are melee. This is a very, very heavy build. Usually, you pick one minion or another. You're doing skeletons, or you're doing zombies, or you're doing, animate weapon or something along those lines. Usually you don't do all of them. In this build, we're actually using pretty much every minion that you possibly can. We're using Specters, we're using skeletons, we're using golems, we're using zombies, we're using animate guardian. So it's very, very heavy. So as you can see, I'm actually running two unset rings. One of them is actually a hungry loop, which is where we put our skeletons, but we'll get to that in a second. So, like I said, this is my minion character, level 91 right now. We are using the Baron helmet. This is just great for survivability, and as you all are aware, if you are watching this, Delirium is very, very rippy. There's lots of on-death effects, so the survivability that you get from your zombie leech and stuff on a character is pretty important. Usually summoners are a little bit more squishy. However, this goes a long way to help with that. So before we jump into the skill gems and the gear, let's go over the tree real quick. We are a Necromancer. For your priorities as far as your ascendancies go, you're going to want to pick up Commander of Darkness early. That helps a lot early on with gearing and helping keep your minions alive. Then you're going to come down through Mindless Aggression and then jump down to Unnatural Strength for your Merciless. And then lastly, for your Uber, you're going to pick up Bone Barrier. Again, this is great survivability, and this is something that actually transitions over to your minions, which is huge. So this is what helps them survive against all sorts of craziness, all sorts of spike damage from the Delirium mobs, etc. So this is the passive tree. Started off, we just went to the left. We are utilizing some efficient trainings, not a lot of them, but we are using efficient training here, and we are using an efficient training here. Now, those are our two efficient trainings. We don't need to go get more than that because of how we are pathing, right? So came up over here, picked up the cluster wheel. We'll go over cluster jewels in a second. Came down, picked up through spiritual aid. These are just really efficient minion damage nodes. Picked up Purity of Flesh because we are life based. We're sitting at about 5,600 life right now. So we will be picking up this life and this chaos resistance going forward. Came down here, we picked up a second cluster wheel, but this one is just another large with two smalls on it. The mediums aren't super important, but like I said, we'll go over clusters in a second. Came down, just picking up as much strength and life as we can. It is definitely worth it to come down and pick up Utmost Might. And if you can afford it, coming through Soul of Steel, this is a great node and helps a lot with your survivability and gives you some more life as well. But that's what the tree is right there. We are using our Unending Hunger for our Specters, which I will also go over shortly. So that's the tree. That's what it looks like. We are picking up as much strength as possible. And we came through Golem Commander for the increased buffs for our golems. We are using Carrion golems, so that gives us a lot of extra physical damage and another minion. All right, so there's the tree. Let's go over gear real quick. So here, I actually crafted most of this gear myself, other than the uniques, obviously. So I was looking for a wand that I could get as much minion stuff on it as possible. This is very, very good. Minion life, 90% increased minion damage. I actually got a T1. I got the minion damage from the essence, and then I also got a minion damage hybrid roll. So that minion damage mana roll is really, really good. And it comes out to give us life, damage, attack, and cast speed, which is huge, right? So that is what we are running for our wand. Our helmet, we are using the Baron. That's pretty self-explanatory. We are using the Surrender, again, just for more survivability. This is really, really nice. It gives you a bunch of life, chance to block, and then recover life when you block. This goes a long way to help keeping you alive. You can use Necromantic Aegis and Victarios if you would like, but that is quite a few points out of the way to come all the way down here and grab Necromantic Aegis, because we are not going in this side of the tree at all, because we are a Baron zombie character mainly. It is worth it. The way that power charges and frenzy charges work on your minions is huge. It gives them crazy, crazy damage. So it might be worth it if you want to use a Victorios to come down here. However, that will take away the survivability of your shield. So full disclaimer before we go any further, there are so many options with minion builds. It's kind of ridiculous all the different things you can do. This is just what I found to be the most optimal setup. There is tons of discussion back and forth on what kind of minions are better, how to set them up. So feel free to play around with it as much as you want, but this is what I found to be most efficient. And from the videos that you saw at the beginning, showcasing it on Elder as well as on Shaper Guardian, the Minotaur, this build is awesome. It does lots of damage, and it's pretty fast, safe, and efficient. So anyway, disclaimer over. Let's keep going with the gear. We are using an Astramentus. Now for the Anoint on the Astramentus, I decided to go with Death Attunement. This is a big deal. This gives us another Specter, another Zombie, and another Skeleton, and because we are so full of minions on this build, that is a big deal, and it saves us a lot of travel points. If you're going to do something else and want to path up and just grab this yourself, picking up Grave Intentions is really, really good. Unholy Might is ridiculous for this build. That is an option as well. And then if you also want to just go ahead and put Soul of Steel on it for, again, more survivability, it's malleable, right? You can kind of pick and choose what you want to do with the tree. So we are using Astramentus with Death Attunement as the Anoint. Now for this ring, this is where I'm keeping my Summon Skeletons, Val Summon Skeletons. I put it in a Hungry Loop and have it linked to Impale, Melee Fizz, Multi-Strike, and Minion Damage. This takes a little while to set up. It's kind of annoying. You're out of ring slot for a while you're putting this in. However, just make sure when you're buying gems, you buy them at 19 and just leveled as much as possible. Saves you a lot of time. Hungry Loop eats it. You swap another one in, etc., until you have the 4. And skeletons are just really, really good. So that is our Hungry Loop. We are using Sequal's Nest. We are doing this because of our aspect of the Avian that we are running. This is really, really good. So running a Sequals, not only do you get the attributes, which is a big thing for dexterity-based stuff, be able to use your dash. It also gives you the mana reduction, which is global, which is a really, really big deal, reduced mana reserved, and the increased effect of the aspect of the Avian buff effect. So essentially what that means is usually this gives you, the player, 10% move speed, and then you have a secondary buff that gives you 10% move speed and 10% chance to deal double damage. And then it also, that secondary buff, gives your minions chance to deal double damage. Now what this does, running this chest, is the 100% increase, so that makes it so your minions also get 20% move speed, and then they have 20% chance to deal double damage, which is very, very, very strong, right? Gives you some resistance, some attributes, so that's why we are running that with our aspect of the Avian. Now for this ring, this is where we are running our Spirit Offering. So we have a level socketed gems, aspect of the Avian, strength, life, and a little bit of resistance. So this is a pretty solid ring. Again, I made this one myself. I just bought the beast, went and ran it to get the aspect of the Avian craft, and found something that has an open suffix. So that is that. For the gloves, we're just running strength, life, resist gloves, just as much as you possibly can on the strength, life, and resist. Because we are kind of unique heavy, there's no life or resistance on the Baron, there's no resistance on your shield, there is only lightning resist and no life on your chest piece, etc., etc. You get the general theme. You definitely want to, on the pieces that are open, get as much life and as much resistances as possible. Stygian Vise, just quality it up, as much resistance as life as you can. This one's pretty okay, not super great. You could pick one up like this with 2 good resistances for 15-20C. And then boots, again, nothing special here, just as much resistance and life as you can with a little bit of move speed. For flasks, just bleed flask, freeze movement for speed, movement speed. We are running a roomies because we're running a shield, so this helps a lot with our block. When we have our roomies up, that gets our block chance to about 50% and a little bit of spell block. So this does help keep us alive a lot. And keep in mind, every time that we do block, we get 250 life, which is a big deal, and some additional armor, which is really nice. And then just normal move speed or normal mana flask. So that's the gear. Let's go over the gem links specifically. So in my wand, I'm running Dash, Second Wind, and Convocation. You want this set up because the Convocation does benefit from the Second Wind, and it makes it so you can recall your minions much, much faster. So as you're running, you're going around, as you saw in the video showcase at the beginning, you run around and you just resummon your minions. It recenters them on you, gives them some resistance, and then you just kind of overwhelm whatever you're fighting with as much minions. As you can see, it gets kind of ridiculous with how much stuff you got going on the screen. But very, very strong. So you want to run that to help with your convocation. In our Baron, this is where we are running our Specters. So we are running Raise Specters, Impale, Melee Fizz, and Minion Damage. Now, the Specters that we are using the Vulnerability Miscreation, and I think it's Slash Miscreation, the one that gives you vulnerability on hit, which is huge. That keeps us from having to run a curse on hit. We run one of those, and then we run 3 Crazed Drivers. Now, what these are is, for those of you that played Specters, the Lightning Specters that have the Lightning Whip, right? This is the physical version of that, which allows us to maximize the benefit that we get from having the Impale support and the Rotten Claws on all of our minions. So their whips are attacks, so it benefits from Impale. So this is really, really good. This helps your damage a lot, and as you saw, the damage is very respectable. So we're running 3 Crazed Drivers and a Slash Miscreation for the vulnerability on hit. As you can see, the Crazed Drivers are actually very fast, so they're moving around over here, sprinting around, you can see them. And that's without them being aggressive as well. So that's what we're running in our helmet. In our shield, we are running Pride, which does benefit our minions. And then Awakened Generosity to support. Again, we're not attacking, so we want to get that Pride benefit as high as possible. And then we are running Dread Banner. Again, Dread Banner is used to give you and nearby allies Impale effect and Chance, which again, since all of our minions are running Impale, we're 100% Fizz, 100% Impale. This goes a long way to pushing us over that 100%. And if you're running Impale and you're familiar with that, you want 100% Impale chance to maximize that damage. Went over the skeletons, just Impale, Melee Fizz, Multi-Strike, Minion damage. In our chest, this is where we're running our zombies. So we got Raise Zombie, Multi-Strike, Minion damage, Ruthless, Melee Fizz, and Impale. Ruthless is really good. This does benefit your zombies. And that's just huge damage on your zombies. And keep in mind, they're leeching 2% of the damage back to you. Bigger damage, bigger leeches, more survivability. Synergizes really, really well. We are running Spirit Offering just to help give our minions that extra chaos damage as well as resistance and chaos resistance. Chaos resistance this league, guys, is a really, really big deal. It's significantly undervalued. A lot of Cyrus stuff is all chaos damage. A lot of Simulacrum stuff, the minions are heavy on chaos damage. So in the past, you'd worry about, oh, well, your chaos resist isn't max. It's not a big deal. This helps a lot with keeping your minions alive. A lot. In our gloves, this is where we are running our Animate Guardian. So we got Animate Guardian, Minion Life, Feeding Frenzy. And again, all your Guardian has to do is it grants you Feeding Frenzy, and that benefits all your minions, gives them more attack and cast speed, etc. So this is really, really good. And our Animate Guardian is pretty strong. And then this is where I run my Portal Gem because I don't like Portal Scrolls. Now, I have a video up on Animate Guardian, so feel free to check that out. For this Animate Guardian specifically, because we are running Delirium content, it's a lot more rippy, it's a lot harder to stay alive. What we opted to do with this Guardian, instead of my usual Breath of the Dying staff, or yeah, pretty sure that's what it's called, we did decide to go with a Kingsmaker on this one to get the Culling Strike and the Fortify on our zombies. It's very good. There's a bunch of different ways to set this up. This is still a support Guardian. There's a bunch of shenanigans with, making a specific, damage Guardian and all that kind of stuff. So feel free to look at that video. You can go back and forth on that. Oh my God, this cat. Yay, my house is a zoo. So there's a lot of discussion back and forth on Animate Guardian on what you can do with that. This is a support Guardian. It is running the Kingsmaker It is running the Learcat Mask. It is running a good pair of rare gloves with resistances. It is running a Belly of the Beast, and it is running a Victario's Flight in the boots. So that is what we have set up on our Animate Guardian right now with Life and Feeding Frenzy. If you are going to use a Stygian, you definitely want something to get as much life and as much minion physical damage as you can. Minion physical damage additive is a really big deal, and it helps a lot with your damage, so please get those if you can. It really does help. And then in our boots, this is where we run our Carrion Golem. So we got Carrion Golem, Impale, Minion Damage, and Multi-Strike. Now, the Carrion Golem serves another purpose as well. The more damage per non-golem minion. So our golems are already doing 50% more damage because they're surrounded with minions all the time. But they also grant 27 to 41 additional physical damage for non-golem minions. Zombies, skeletons, specters, animate, guardian, all of them benefit from this, which is huge. That is why on our tree, we opted to get a second one through Golem Commander, because that also increases the buffs granted by your golems, so that further increases the amount of flat physical that your rest of your minions get. It's very good, very strong, highly recommend. You don't have to path up through here if you want to save some points, but again, this is all giving you strength as well, and Baron does not work unless you have at least 1,000 strength, so keep that in mind. All right, so there's that. Here are the cosmetics. We're running Madcap and pretty much the black gloves, black body armor, the black wings with the Celestial character effect, Celestial minion pack, zombies, specters, and skeletons, Stygian Carrion golems, and Celestial aura effect and the Monolith aura effect. So there's lots of eye bleed going on the screen. I like it. I think it's awesome. Some people don't. Feel free to adjust accordingly. Now for our cluster duels, these are really, really important. So what you want to prioritize on these is getting the Vicious Bite and the Rotten Claws with 2 jewel sockets. So what Vicious Bite is, it gives your minions crit chance as well as crit multi, which is really, really good. And then Rotten Claws is the mandatory one, because in order to get 100% Impale chance, you need 2 of these with the Dread Banner and the Impale support to push you over 100. So there's that. For our mediums, we have Feasting Fiends, which is just good leech, and Blessed Rebirth. So Blessed Rebirth is very, very strong. This benefits your skeletons mainly, because if it's summoned recently, it can't be damaged, which is a huge deal. So if you summon skeletons and then a boss does a big slam and just clears out all your minions, that's a super feels bad. So this prevents your skeletons, which are a big damage dealer, from being instantly wiped out, because they are all focused on damage. Like, unlike our Guardian and some of our other minions, there's no minion life linked to them. So you definitely want to get Blessed Rebirth on at least one of your medium cluster jewels with the minion life. For our small jewel socket, just as much life, and then Wall of Muscle. Wall of Muscle gives you the increased strength, so you stack up a couple of them, and they're very, very good for helping you get that 1,000 strength cap for zombies. Got another one over here, just as much life, chaos res as you can find on them. On our second medium cluster jewel, we have Renewal and another Feasting Fiends. Renewal is very, very good. So we're already getting 20% more, or 20% chance to deal double damage from our Aspect of the Avian on our minions. So with how much regen, leech, etc. your minions have, you're almost always on full life. And again, this also synergizes with Blessed Rebirth, which makes your minions unable to be damaged recently. So this also scales your skeletons very, very well when you first summon them. So highly recommend prioritizing that, because if you get 40-50% chance to deal double damage, it's really ridiculous. So that is what you want to prioritize on there. Coming down here in this cluster jewel, same thing. Rotten Claws, Vicious Bite. So Vicious Bite, again, is the crit multi. Rotten Claws is the Impale. And then this one just has Raise and Pillage, just for some extra damage. And then on this one, since we already have our 1,000 cap, we went with Fettle, All Res. And here is another Wall of Muscle. So that's the cluster jewels. That's the build. That's pretty much everything. I don't think I missed anything. If I did, feel free to ask questions in the comments. Let me know what you guys think. Hopefully you guys enjoy this build as much as I have. Thanks for watching. Let me know how you like it, and I'll see you in the next video.